I love Steam. I'm a Steam stan, a Steam simp, a Steam homie. And it's the Steam sale, so what am I doing? Spending yet more money on Steam. Here's what I've got my eye on during this 2024 Steam summer sale. The bank of Baldur is not infinite, so it's unlikely that I'll be picking up everything on this list, but each of these games is getting a special look from me. This list is pretty specific to me, but I'm hoping I can at least highlight a couple of deep cuts for you based on the kind of stuff that I have my feelers out for. I've got the games sorted into broad categories. Some games would fit into more than one, some would kind of need their own, but you can check out the video chapters if you want to skip to some games that are more in your wheelhouse. This video is going to be real long, so let's get ripping with some indie games. Starting with the supernatural is the survival crafting horror game Pacific Drive. Your station wagon is your only solace as you travel through the Olympic exclusion zone. I dig the idea of a car survival game, especially set in an alternate version of the Northwest US. This game is creative, it reviewed well, and having come out only recently, 40% off is extremely generous. I will definitely be picking this one up for $17.99. Trade your car in for a boat in indie darling Dredge. It's a fishing adventure that has a sinister undercurrent, not unlike Pacific Drive. It's got the Resident Evil 4 style inventory system, which seems to fit this game well, and it has an incredible amount of heart put into the character and environmental design. If spooky fishing is your thing, you'll love this game. Any spooky fishermen out there? This game is only a year old and it won a BAFTA, so a 35% discount is pretty solid, as is the $16.24 price tag. They Are Billions is a steampunk zombie apocalypse game that looks a lot like a tower defense or real-time strategy type game, with far more enemies than you'd usually see. The sheer amount of zombie enemies in this game is really what makes it what it is, but the steampunk strategy elements of this game are cool too. It has a pretty novel concept and a dark vibe. At 30% off to get it down to $20.99, I might pull the trigger, but I could see it going down a little more on a future sale too. Check it out! Wizard with a Gun sounds like a fun game to jump into, and with the same art style and feel as Supergiant's Bastion, it looks fun to jump into as well. It's a sandbox survival game which you can play with a friend or two. I gave the demo a shot a while ago now, and the gunplay, wizard spells, and base building made for a fun mix. This game isn't even a year old yet, so 50% off is quite generous, and $12.49 is not a bad price. Rest in peace, Galvanic Games. Zero Seaver is a top-down extraction shooter that borrows elements from games like Stalker and Escape from Tarkov. I've heard this game can be pretty hardcore, but I'm drawn in by the top-down pixel aesthetic and the depth of the systems. It has nuclear post-apocalyptic vibes, and some enemy designs give me Fallout vibes as well. 10% off isn't great, but $17.99 is about as cheap as I've seen this one, so it's worth a pickup if you want it. Teardown is a voxel-based heist game / destruction simulator. It's all about creating shortcuts by destroying the environment, either with large amounts of vehicles that this game provides, or of course, explosives and your trusty hammer. It's a creative sandbox of destruction, and with over 40 handcrafted missions to puzzle through, not to mention Steam Workshop support, there's a lot of game here. It's 50% off right now with a discount to $14.99, and that seems like a steal for all the effort that was put into this game. Leaning more into the sci-fi side of things now is Hyper Light Drifter. Not only is the name, Hyper Light Drifter, rad as hell, but so is the colorful pixelated art style that this game uses. The punchy, frenetic combat combined with beautiful environments really make this action RPG a must-play for me. And with the sequel, Hyper Light Breaker, coming out soon, and with 40% off dropping it down to $11.99, it's a great time to pick it up. Since this game came out last year, it has always been right on the edge of my radar. It's got cool sci-fi vibes, it's a roguelike deck builder, and it shares some DNA with FTL. Cobalt Core has some unique ideas, colorful characters, and good vibes. It has been in and out of my Steam cart more than any other game. It still only has a 33% discount to get it down to $13.49, but this might be the sale where I'm finally ready to pull the trigger. Crosscode is a dope-looking retro-style sci-fi action RPG that looks smooth and fun to jump into. It has SNES vibes, puzzle elements, the gameplay is fast and frenetic, and the character design seems cool. There is a ton of content here. It's at a huge 70% off, and $5.99 is a great price for such a cool game. Sea of Stars is a turn-based RPG inspired by classic RPGs like Chrono Trigger, a game I purchased and played after playing the demo for this game and wanting to see its inspiration. I'm glad I did. Sea of Stars seems like a grand yet down-to-earth RPG adventure with some great game design, fun characters, and a dope art style. This game won a lot of awards, including Indie Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and as an aspiring content creator, it's a game I'd be remiss to miss. It's got a good feel, and seems to have a good handle on the pacing and not wasting players' time. This game isn't quite a year old yet, so a 30% off discount to $24.49 is a pretty good deal. It took me a little bit to get into Ultros. I played the demo, bounced off, but I wanted to give it another shot because it looked really cool, and then I got what it was trying to do. It's a sci-fi, psychedelic Metroidvania. The art style and music are both obviously super cool, with the psychedelic nature of the art really coming to the forefront. It took me a minute to get a feel for the movement, combat, and just remembering to look at the map, but once I did, I really did have a fun time completing the demo. I'm always a bit hesitant on Metroidvanias, but I've given this one a solid shot, and the cool art style makes it worth picking up. It's real fresh too, so 40% off is a really good sale, and I think $14.99 is a steal for it so soon after it came out. I played a ton of Jet Set Radio Future as a kid, so it's fun to see that it finally has a spiritual successor in Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. $40 is a pretty high price, but the reviews tend to actually be pretty solid, so it seems worthwhile. It's got the dope soundtrack, cool lo-fi cel-shaded graphics, and a too cool for school kind of energy. This one has the nostalgia factor for me too, so I'm glad that I'm able to pick it up for 33% off at $26.79. If you miss the quote-unquote extreme sports games of the 2000s, this one, probably a hit for you. I'm excited to hop in. Okay, so this next game, Pony Island, doesn't look like anything I'd be into. It has this pony facade, and it really is just kind of a cryptic horror game. It's not my vibe at all, except it was made by Daniel Mullins, who also made Inscription, one of my favorite games of all time. I can just about guarantee that somehow this game is clever, and it's worth it to go in without knowing very much. It's only $4.99 at full price, and it's a whopping 85% off. Picking it up at 74 cents is a no-brainer, and it's definitely the cheapest game on my list. Garden Story is a cute little action-adventure RPG where you play as a grape setting out to fight the rot that is invading the grove. This game looks real cute, and it's got good, wholesome vibes. The pixel aesthetic and the garden theme just warm my heart. It's a bite-sized little romp that looks like it's worth checking out, and now that it's a few years old, the 75% discount makes the price a low $4.99. Absolutely worth checking out. I've always heard that Monster Train is the second best deck-building roguelite after Slay the Spire, of course. While that's certainly not resounding praise, Slay the Spire is tough to live up to. Monster Train's aesthetics remind me a lot of mobile games, which I'm not really into, but I do just keep hearing how good this game is. I'm a sucker for deck builders and for roguelikes, so the concept of Monster Trains is novel and pretty cool. 73% off is also quite generous, so maybe I'll finally give it a shot for $6.74 and find out what I'm missing out on. Balatro is another deck building roguelike that I've heard is pretty good. I saw some pre-release stuff for it, and it's poker theming, and decided that it wasn't really my thing, but then I kept hearing about it and seeing it and being told just how great the synergies and combos are. I look at the gameplay, and while I'll tell you that I have absolutely no idea what's going on, the numbers and the colors have definitely caught my attention. Also, its full price of only $15 is crazy. This game is only a few months old, so it's nice that it has a discount, and 10% off to $13.49 is a great price to get in on the fun. Celeste is a brutally challenging puzzle platformer, but unlike the game Super Meat Boy, it has some options to either tune up or tone down the difficulty as needed. I have this game on my Nintendo Switch. I beat it and enjoyed the game all the way through. With its steep 90% discount, it's a great add to my Steam library, and I definitely plan to give it another shot on my Steam Deck. This game is absolutely worth the playthrough, even just for the story, and for $1.99, it would be ludicrous not to pick it up. And with Celeste, that ends the indies category of games that I think are worth checking out during the Steam Summer Sale. These are not the only indies on this list, of course, but if I chopped all 17 of these games up into their own categories, this video would be even longer than it already is. Now, we're moving on to the CRPG/Tactics category. Every category from here on out is a little bit shorter, a little sweeter, and a little bit more to the point. Let's check out some CRPGs, starting with Colony Ship. Colony Ship is a CRPG through and through. It's turn-based, party-based, and tactical with widely branching dialogue paths, intricate skill trees, and emphasis on player choice. It's set aboard a Generation ship, flying from Earth to Proxima Centauri. It reminds me a little bit of the ship you go on in the Outer Worlds, but the whole vibe is a bit more intense. This game looks well made upon its solid hard science fiction roots. With all the great CRPGs out there, it's a tough sell for me at its regular $40 price point, but 35% off to $25.99 definitely makes it a more worthwhile pickup. In the same sci-fi vein, but with the added levity of the Warhammer 40k universe, is Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. It's a CRPG made by Owlcat Games, the same studio that made Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. So if you like that, you'll probably like this, so long as you have the appetite for the 40k universe. I've heard great things about the original Rogue Trader, and I like the concept and Warhammer well enough that I think this one is worth a shot. It's long as all heck, so you'll definitely get your money's worth, especially at the $32.49 sale price. For more Warhammer 40k, go no further than Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2. This game is strictly ship-based space combat and is definitely a tactics/RTS game. I played a bit of the original Battlefleet Gothic Armada and had a pretty good time with it, so I have no qualms giving the ship-based combat simulator of the Warhammer 40k universe another go. There's a lot of creativity in the ship design, and even though I don't necessarily understand the nuances of Warhammer 40k, I'm sure I'll have a good time, especially for the generous 80% discount, making this game only $3.99. Jagged Alliance 3 is a sequel to a 1999 game that I never had the chance to play. While I'm not in the camp of people who are nostalgic for the return of this series, I saw it and was pretty excited about the turn-based tactical combat. It's a military tactical RPG with some of the over-top action that you'd find in a game like Just Cause or an 80s movie. Your squad of mercenaries needs to rescue the president from an evil paramilitary force utilizing a wide arsenal and whatever means necessary to pull it off. The game is 50% off right now, and for $22.49, it's worth a shot. Tactics Ogre Reborn is Tactics Ogre Reborn. It's an updated version of the 2010 game, and by all accounts, Square Enix did a pretty good job with this release. I'm a sucker for tactical RPGs. I'm not a sucker for the 2D HD format that's all the rage right now. I love complex and political storylines. I don't love that there aren't any actual ogres in this game. This game has some cool history, and it definitely seems to be worth checking out. It's 50% off, which is pretty good, but $24.99 still feels a little steep for me. If you really like this kind of game and you were waiting for a sale, now is still a great time to pick it up. Now, we're rolling into the medieval category. A lot of these games could have been put in the tactics category, as well as, Tactics Ogre being put into the medieval category. My categories are fallible. My drive to tell you about cool games is not. Kicking the category off is Lost Eidolons. Lost Eidolons is a turn-based tactics RPG, but it drips with its medieval influences. That's not the only thing that's dripping out of it. Blood, of course, but also a ton of Fire Emblem influence. To me, this is the PC version of Fire Emblem, pulling back on some of the anime elements and pushing forward on the gritty medieval elements. Will this game live up to Fire Emblem Three Houses? There's only one way to find out, and that's buying this game for $22.74 on the Steam summer sale. What's this? Another turn-based tactical RPG dripping with medieval elements? And it's gritty? Call me a sucker, but obviously I have a type. Battle Brothers has always struck me as kind of a roguelike due to its high difficulty curve and its procedural generation. I can be a little wimpy baby sometimes because I don't like to lose my boys, and Battle Brothers has a lot of that, but that doesn't change the fact that this is absolutely the type of game that I adore. Leading a band of mercenaries around a medieval fantasy land? Sign me right up. It's 50% off on sale right now for $14.99. For my next trick, I will pull yet another medieval turn-based tactical combat game out of my hat. Songs of Conquest has you doing a little bit more kingdom management and raising larger armies to put into battle. It also has a lot of high fantasy elements like magic and cool frog knights to use in your plight. This game seems to have a pretty open-ended story and a lot of strategic choice, plus a good dose of 1990s nostalgia and a beautiful modern sprite design. It's 25% off to be $26.24. The next game on my list is the ever-popular Valheim. I typically enjoy survival crafting, and I obviously love Norse mythology, so it's definitely odd that this one passed me by. I'm typically a big solo player, and I heard that this one was pretty grindy to do solo, which is why I haven't given this one a shot yet, even 3 years on now. For 50% off to $9.99, it's finally time for me to build my own Viking Hall. Last Epoch is an action RPG, not to be confused with Lost Eidolons. I get those two confused all the time. Anyways, Last Epoch looks pretty good. It's got a ton of cool-looking powers, dope-looking maps, loot, and cool skill trees. I love a good action RPG, and this looks like a good action RPG. I've heard it's a great middle ground between Path of Exile and Diablo 4, so if that sounds like something you'd be into, it's worth picking up for 20% off at $27.99. For reference, Diablo 4 is not on sale. It's still $49.99, and Path of Exile is still free. My next category is called Old School Cool because it has a couple of really old games on it and a couple of newer games that try to emulate the style of older games. Old school is cool, damn it! 2005's Sudeki was a game that I had on an Xbox demo disc and would play the fun action combat over and over. It tells a cool story of light and darkness, rife with magic, cool character designs, and cool abilities. It was a bit of a cult classic back in the day, and I never had the chance to give it a shot. You get to switch freely between 4 characters, each with their own cool loadouts. Apparently, the PC port is excellent, and for only $4.01, I have no excuse for not indulging my FOMO. 2003's Battle Engine Aquila is another one of those games that I had the demo disc for on the original Xbox. You play as a pilot, Hawk Winter, and you basically pilot a tank/airplane battle engine to participate in big battles with your blue army, fighting, of course, a red army. This game has so much 2000s energy in its design, color scheme, graphics, and mech combat. I am so psyched to pilot my battle engine for only $6.49. The last of this group of games that I had an Xbox demo disc for but missed out on back in the day is Armed and Dangerous. It sees you playing as a group of ragtag rebels trying to save the world. It's a third-person shooter, and the big thing I remember from this one is there's a big suit of armor looking robot taking a big corkscrew, sticking it in the ground, and the whole world turning upside down. It's definitely crude in its humor and has some real dated references, but for only $2.09, it's absolutely worth checking out. Barony is a first-person roguelike in the style of the dungeon crawlers of old. You'll need to fight through the deadly traps and monsters of the dungeon to find great treasures that will keep you alive to take down a lich. This game really touts its multiplayer components, and at 50% off for $9.99, maybe you should pick it up for the whole crew. Continuing with our modern retro game theme is Wizardom. Wizardom is a boomer shooter, but instead of shooting guns, you're blasting spells and such. This game looks absolutely dope. It has a great modern yet pixelated aesthetic, and the enemies and spell designs look really fun. A modern blast from the ancient past, Wizardom is 20% off and $11.99. Islands of the Caliph is an old-school dungeon-crawling RPG based on Middle Eastern folklore and Islamic influences. The pixelated graphics look absolutely beautiful, and can I get a yee-yee for curved swords? This game really leans into its 1980s influence, oftentimes for the better, but sometimes for the worse. You do have to be into the style of this game in order to give it a shot, but for only $7.49, the bar to entry is low. Now we're diving into some strategy/city builder/management games. I dig all 3 of these genres, and they all have a similar vibe, so without further ado, let's look at some more games. Sengoku Dynasty is a survival management game about building a village in open-world feudal Japan. Feudal Japan is a dope setting for a game, and the graphics of this game really pull off the vibe well. While there are survival management games all over, none have tried to conquer Japan, and that's the reason why you check this one out. There's some cool combat, the crafting and building looks competent, and this game is in early access, so there's more to come. Based on the Steam reviews, it's a bit rough around the edges, but that's why you'd pick it up for 25% off on the sale, for $22.49. Little Known Galaxy is a cozy little space crafting and farming RPG in the style of something like Stardew Valley. It only came out a month ago, so 20% off to the sale price of $15.99 is still pretty fair, and it looks like a fun little romp. If you're tired of Stardew, or you're just temporarily looking to get your farm game fix somewhere else, Little Known Galaxy looks like an excellent game to fill the gap. Planet exploration and flying your spaceship around is a pretty unique take on the genre too, that we haven't seen very much of. Also brand spankin' new, Aska is a settlement simulator based on Norse mythology. At the time of the sale start, this game is only a week old, so 10% off to get this game down to $22.49 is perfectly fair. You can play with up to 3 friends as you build a settlement with your quote-unquote intelligent NPCs who will help you survive. I really dig the vibe of this game. I like that you can have AI helpers do some of the work for you, helping your little Viking settlement grow. Maybe I'll keep my Valheim angst, and I'll just get in on the ground floor with Aska instead. Terra Invicta is a massively ambitious game where you get to play out and manage a first contact event with an alien species. You have a choice of ideological factions to command that will shape the way that you play, and you directly take control of the politics of Earth and use your influence to determine how different events play out. With the influence of nations under your control, you seek to bend the will of humanity to your faction's goal, of which there are 7 factions. Eventually, you'll be able to get into some cool space combat too. This game is still in early access, and it's a grand strategy game, so it might not appeal to everyone, but 30% off is pretty solid, and $27.99 is a great price to pick it up for. Amazing Cultivation Simulator is a cult/colony management game based on Chinese mythology and developed by Chinese developer GSQ Games. You'll be rebuilding your sect and training disciples on the path to cultivation. This game looks a bit like RimWorld, but it has some cool magical and mythological effects going on. This game seems pretty wacky, and I'm sure there's an optimization hiccup or two in its translation to English, but it looks pretty fun. Steam reviews say that it's pretty complicated to get into, but if you have the time and the desire to learn, now is the time to pick it up at only $16.99. Age of Wonders 4 is the new Age of Wonders game, and it looks like a huge overhaul from the previous entry. If you like 4X games like Civilization combined with mythology and magic, this game is for you. The systems in this game go really in depth, there are entire alternate planes, a cool tactical turn-based combat system, and it has some fun, unique mechanics that just set this game apart from others in the genre. It would take you hundreds of games to really explore every playstyle and variation. It's only just over a year old, and it's on sale now for 30%, which comes to $34.99, which isn't too bad. Total War Pharaoh is a history-based Total War game, one of which we're seeing less and less frequently. It had a rough launch in regards to price for the amount of content it had, and the optimization and the combat. Even with its reduced $39.99 full price, it isn't worth picking up for me, but on sale at 33% off to $26.79, it's worth taking a look at. Problems aside, a lot has been fixed since release, and it's still a cool Total War game, and really the only ancient Egypt-focused Total War game. It's still less than a year old too, so why not check it out? The next games are games that I could really only categorize as AAA or AA. All of these games are definitely higher budget experiences, and of course all of them have high standard price tags, making the Steam sale an ideal time to pick them up. The first game in this category is Dragon Age 2 Ultimate Edition. This series is kind of weird. Dragon Age Origins was creative, had tons of backstory and player choice, and was definitely more of a CRPG. Dragon Age 2 had a very rushed development, and it pulls back to be a much more linear experience. Inquisition was kind of a return to form. It was very, very big. And Dreadwolf, Veilguard, seems like a whole new, much more Mass Effect type thing. I really dug the time I spent in Origins and Inquisition, and I love the Dragon Age universe, but I never played Dragon Age 2. The Ultimate Edition is on sale for only $2.99, and with Veilguard seemingly close on the horizon, I want to give it a shot. For 90% off, it seems like EA wants me to give it a shot too. Personally, if you don't have the other games, they're also dirt cheap, and I'd recommend them first, but you can get all 3 Dragon Age games for like $10, which is an absolute steal. Hogwarts Legacy rewrote what a Harry Potter game could be. It's not without its flaws, but it was received very well, and it's a fun look into the Harry Potter universe. Personally, I think J.K. Rowling is a huge piece of shit, but like most people my age, I grew up reading her books and watching the movies and playing the video games. It's tough for me to separate the author from her work, so I've definitely soured on Harry Potter quite a bit, but for such a big and unique open world game for only $23.99, it's a pretty good price. It's gone to $29.99 before, and I've been waiting for this one to go just a smidge lower, which it now has. I think $23.99 isn't a bad price at all, and I don't see it dropping much more than that anytime soon. I'm familiar with the Ghost Recon series, both some of the older games and the open world reboot with Wildlands. Ghost Recon Breakpoint came out in 2019, and by all accounts, it kind of flopped. They took out some of the features from Wildlands and basically just continued with the copy-paste formulaic garbage that Ubisoft tends to put out as its series continue. I also hate microtransactions, and those are in this game pretty bad, but with a deep 90% off sale that it has right now, I'm willing to overlook a thing or two. The base game is running for $5.99, and the Ultimate Edition with all the DLC is $17.99. This game is not worth it at full price, but I'm hoping I can find the fun at the steeply discounted rate. Evil West is the only AA game in this category, and this game always seems to be the banner child for why we need more 7 out of 10 games. It's a linear, action-packed romp, hearkening to the days of the Xbox, PS2, 360, PS3 days, when not everything had to be huge, bloated, and open world with tons of content. It seems like great fun to go through the Old West battling vampires with your lightning glove, but the $50 full price is a steep ask. This game is about a year and a half old, so 65% off brings it down to $17.49, more than enough to be a reasonable grab. Forza Horizon 4 feels like a controversial grab for me. I played a fair bit of it when I had Game Pass, and it's a beautiful racing game. This usually isn't my genre, but the Horizon games really make this accessible for me. The reason why I think this is controversial is because the only reason I'm purchasing it is because it is going to be delisted from digital storefronts on December 15th due to lapsing marketing deals with cars and music. This is super shitty, of course, but if you want to play this game, you need to buy it now. Fortunately, it is well worth the $11.99 price, with the Ultimate Edition with the DLCs being $19.99. I'm both excited that I picked it up for a great price and I get to keep playing it, and disappointed that Xbox pretty much forced my hand. If you have a modicum of interest, definitely consider this one, but don't stress too much as we still have Forza Horizon 5. For now. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is the first of two big games that I have on this list that tote a massive $70 price tag. Even with a pretty strong 50% discount, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is still $34.99. Is it worth it? Probably. This game is a cutting-edge reimagining of what is widely regarded as the best Final Fantasy game. Even though it's only 1/3 of a game, with Part 2 out of 3 not being on Steam yet, and Part 3 out of 3 not even being released yet, this game still does have plenty of content. If you like big swords, badass characters, and metal, this game is definitely worth a grab. If you want to wait for more to come to PC, I bet this game will probably be slightly cheaper in the future. Dragon's Dogma 2 is my second game that has a beefy full price of $70, and it's only several months old, so the 20% sale brings it down to $55.99. Now is obviously a great time to get it if you've been jonesing to get into some new Dogma. Personally, I think I'm still going to wait a bit on this one, as I've heard there are some optimization issues, and usually with some time, that kind of thing gets ironed out a little bit. That said, this game does look freaking cool, and if you've got a spare $55.99 right now, it's a great time to pick it up for basically what AAA games used to cost. You can also drop $29.99 to get the original. It's not on sale right now. I already own it, and I've never beaten that game, so I might give that a shot in the meantime as I wait for the price to drop on this one. My final category is a bit underwhelming because it's just the DLC that I've been meaning to pick up. Steam sales are a great time to buff up the games that I like that I already own, so that's what I do. I'm not a big Dark Souls guy, if you couldn't tell from my list, but the new Elden Ring DLC isn't on sale anyway, so temper your expectations. I've been really addicted to Risk of Rain 2 lately, since I gifted a spare copy that I got through the Humble Bundle to one of my friends, and we've been playing together. The Survivors of the Void DLC is now $7.49 with a 35% discount, so it is a worthwhile grab to get a couple new survivors, a slew of items, stages, and some monsters. The original game is only $15.64 bundled with this DLC, which is a great deal, so check it out. When War Tales came out, I was pretty psyched on it. Obviously, I love medieval tactical RPGs, so yeah, I'd fit the bill. It's a pretty cool game where you get to lead your crew around doing various quests, hoping to survive the vicious medieval land that you found yourself in. The Pirates of Balerion DLC adds a bunch of pirate stuff, obviously with some cool new maps, some combat on ships, and new pirate-themed adventures. It's 25% off, so it's $14.99. Not the best deal because the DLC has kind of middling reviews, but it's cheaper than normal, so now is the time to pick it up. The base game is 30% off on the sale for $24.49, and definitely the more worthwhile grab if you don't own it yet. If you like medieval tactics games as much as I do, definitely pick it up. I've straight up been playing Age of Empires 2 for over 2 decades, the entirety of my video game playing lifespan. The definitive edition of this game was a godsend, and you can pick it up for $9.99 on sale right now, and it's an incredibly worthwhile price for what I consider to be the best real-time strategy game of all time. I've dutifully grabbed each of this game's new DLC immediately upon release, as they've always been high-quality, fun additions to the game. They're all on sale right now for anywhere between 25% and 50% off, and they're all worth it, except for the DLC that I'm planning on buying, Victors and Vanquished. This DLC broke my habit of immediately buying the new DLC, and it currently stands at an awe-inspiring, mostly negative review status on Steam. It's 50% off, so it's only $6.49 to add a slew of single-player scenarios to my game. Get the game and a different DLC or two if you're not obsessed with this game like I am. For me, $6.49 is a price I'm willing to pay for the most complete and updated version of Age of Empires 2, but if you're new to it, get the original game. Any other DLC, you'll have way more fun. Thanks for sticking with me for so freaking long. I hope out of the 50 games that I talked about, you found something that you want to check out on this list. There are so many good games on sale right now, and this list only scratches the surface. This list was of course personalized to me and the games that I don't yet own, but I'm a bit of a collector, so definitely scroll through the store page and see if there's something on your wish list that you're eager to pick up. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is like $6. The Witcher 3 is like $4. Warner Brothers has some good games at some very deep discounts. Definitely look around, click around, check the sale out. I'll leave you with my must grabs. If you add up all the games on this list, the sale price would still be a whopping $839.22, so I'm definitely being discretionary with my purchases. My must grabs this sale are Pacific Drive, Forza Horizon 4, Dragon Age 2, Risk of Rain 2, Survivors of the Void, Age of Empires 2, Victors and Vanquished, Pony Island, Crosscode, Celeste, Sadeki, Hogwarts Legacy, Armed and Dangerous, and either Songs of Conquest or Lost Eidolons. I need to make a solid choice there. If you liked the video, please leave me a like. This video took a lot of work, especially to get it out as fast as I needed to. And drop a comment with what you're excited for this summer sale. What are your big summer sale gets? As always, thanks for watching.